This video, I'm going to show you how to make something like this. It's really quite easy and simple. You're going to be using Boxcutter and machine tools, and so it's going to take you almost no time at all. You can play around with this and come up with tons and tons of different interesting designs. It's really quite good. It's very similar to what you would call parametric modeling. It's basically the same idea. So let's get into it. This all starts very simply with a cube. Actually, it helps if you change your cube size to be something on the grid as well. So we're going to be using absolute grid snapping. And so we're looking at this overall shape here. If we were to make this exactly 10 meters, for example, that would be great, okay? And so we can go ahead and start chiseling away at this thing, but I want to offset it first. So in edit mode, you move it and you offset it so that the corner or the pivot point's like down here in the corner. All right, now this is where the fun begins, because we turn on Boxcutter, and then we can use the N-gon cutter, the regular cube cuts or cylinder cuts, whatever the case. And we just start chiseling away at this thing, more or less, is what's going to happen here. So you want to use N-gon cuts. You do that, snapping on, snapping off for the angle snap. It doesn't really matter. All you're going to do is start cutting this shape up. That's it. Okay. And so you do this from the orthographic views, holding Alt while orbiting. You could turn on view align and ortho. Use the N-gon cutter, and you can just cut like triangles like this to do little chamfers, things like that. You can go to the side, you can use a box cut. Come over here and you could do this. All right. You can also use the box cut with draw line on, which is actually kind of interesting because all you do is more or less select your shape and then you draw a line. And then you see what I'm saying? So that one's a little bit crooked because I don't have snapping turned on, but whatever the case, we can just draw lines wherever we want and do things like that as well. Super fast, right? Really simple of an idea. All right, so this is just one thing you can do, or one way you can go about doing it. Now you can also do unions, right? We won't use that one anymore. You can just do simple unions whenever we want. I'm gonna add a union through here and send it out this way. That's fine. Okay, we're gonna symmetrize later on, so we have this little section here like that. We just keep doing these cuts over and over and over again. This is more or less something like parametric modeling. So it's quite simple, really. What we're going to do here with this one is we could actually take, well, we won't take it all the way through, I don't think. Yeah, we'll take it all the way through. Why not? We'll change our mind here. We can bring these cutters back, hitting Q, E, right? You can mouse wheel through to find other ones, right? So Q, E, select this one. Use the N-gon cutter, and we're going to turn this off so that it's open. This is a fun one because we can just draw lines, and if we hit T, we can change the scale here, okay? And then, but once we set that scale, the next one we do will have that same exact setup, okay? So we can do things like that, all right? Pretty simple of an idea, okay? And so what you're eventually going to do is just keep cutting, and you're going to find at a certain point that you're going to mirror it, and it's going to be a little too symmetrical, and you're going to want to actually break up that symmetry by just doing more cuts without the mirror, okay? And so let's go ahead and mirror it now. I'm going to use machine tools and use the mirror tool, which has a different shortcut than what I use by default, but you can see we can mirror it like so. And this is great and all, but check this out. We're going to do Shift S, cursor to select it. With machine tools, hold Alt so it doesn't adopt a rotation. It should be at the world origin anyways. But we could create an empty plane axis, change the size here, okay? So we can actually mirror like this, and then we can actually select the empty here. We can mirror across 3D cursor as well, if we wanted to do that. But now we got this going on, okay? So we can do Z mirror, bisect. We could flip these if we want, try different things. You can get some interesting parts out of it sometimes. But we can take that mirror empty, we can move it around now, you see? We can also rotate it. So if we rotate it on X, for example, we get some really wild stuff very quickly, and that's the cool part about this. I want something like more like this. So it's more like a hallway, right? I think that'll work out better. Okay. And so here's the trick with Boxcutter, right? It reorders your mirrors usually. All right. So your mirrors get reordered up here. You can turn that off. This is a little symmetrize button, right? Or mirror modifier. It's going to reorder it with it on, turn it off where it's gray, and now it won't reorder it. So the next time you do a Boolean cut, you'll have asymmetry involved with this. So if we wanted to do like little window things or whatever right here, possibly, you see, we can do that. And when we click, it's just going to be an asymmetrical piece now. So the only way we're going to get symmetry anymore is if we were to mirror the cutter itself, not the whole object. So that's just something you might want to think about when working this way. And just keep cutting away, really. You can get a lot of crazy interest going very fast. Just do like narrow cuts sometimes or in-gun cuts, whatever the case. I'll leave that part up to you. I need to turn that back to closed. And I got to hold control to snap, but you guys should have it on by default. You can hold control to not use the angle snap there. All right. So now we can also do additions, possibly, where we have different objects that we kind of attach to this one. That's a possibility, where we do something like that. So these are new objects, and then we can detail these individually later on if needed, right? But ultimately, we might want to make this something of like an environment piece. So we might have some kind of a cube in here, or a plane, or whatever the case. Do a cube for now. And the important part of this is we have to scale this the same, right? So it'll be 5 meters or whatever it was, 10 meters in total. Something like that. Okay? Because we're mirroring it now, it's 10 meters, not 5. All right, so this would be like a catwalk maybe, or something in here. So we make like sky bridges and things like that, basically, right? And so if we want to make it wider, we could. Now, here's the only thing I want to remind you of is that usually when you're doing scaling, if you make it non-uniform by scaling in one direction, you need to apply those usually. So Control A, apply scale. This could happen on other pieces. You might have to apply scale as well. That way you get your bevels make sense, because if you don't do that, for example, like if I scale this out really far in one direction and then I try to do a bevel, I might not see it very well that way. Let's try doing it the other way maybe. Let's do it this way. We scale it really far. We try to do a bevel here. Of course, am I in edit mode doing that? That's probably why. Let's see if I can get back to it. Yeah, if you scale in edit mode, it doesn't mess that up. I gotta scale in object mode. Yeah, see, it doesn't bevel like normal. It bevels like that instead. That's that error when you have non-uniform scale, basically. It's not really an error, I guess, but if we wanted to combine these later on, possibly, you know, that's something we could do. This is really good for just concepting in general. But probably wouldn't want things intersecting with each other either, so you see how that works out now. We have something like this going on. Oh, so by the way, the sizes I'm using make sense for Unreal Engine for the most part. So I have a drop-in character that I have size to your typical Unreal Engine size character, which is 1.8 meters tall, 1.79, somewhere around there. And so I already knew what the scaling of this thing was. If your object's just too small, or your piece is too small, just make it larger, all right, until it's back to the grid, like meter points, basically. That's it. That's all you got to do. And so if you've done that correctly, what ends up happening is I'm just going to select all this and right-click and duplicate it, or Shift-D, right-click, Shift-D to duplicate it, right-click, and right-click again, convert to a mesh. And so we have a copy of this. I'm just going to snap it out here to the side. So I can just join all this together real quick because there's no mirrors or anything left on it. But I just want to join it real quick to the main piece, of course. And you'd want to position your pivot point accordingly. But for now, we're just going to leave it as is. And we're Alt-D and pull it out this way, like this, okay? So it's doing duplicates that are linked. And I'm hitting Shift-R to repeat that movement. I had to control to snap it into the position, right? But basically, we made something like a sky bridge is kind of the idea here. Maybe it's like a sky bridge between two buildings or something like that, or in an industrial area. This obviously doesn't make much sense up here, but it's still, you'd want to work that out when you're doing the modeling aspect of it, and see if you can get things that make more and more sense, perhaps. Still not too bad. It's kind of an interesting design. If we put like a bar going through the outsides there, I think that might work out. Okay, but yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. If you want to walk around like this, it's Shift tilde key is the fly mode. You use WASD to fly around, shift to move. You hit G, you'll fall to the polygon below you or the face below you, generally speaking. But you can also, sometimes if it's the wrong scales, you'll pop up to the roof, or you'll fall through the floor if there's a hole or things like that. So whatever the case there. At this point, all you want to do is really think about what you're creating. And, you know, either make some fixes here or back over there where you had started. And then, you know, detail this as well. Because obviously there's a lot of stuff that can still have little minute things happening or occurring on these pieces here, right? So you can see like we got that edge. I didn't even know I had it selected. There we go. You know, we might want to like bevel things like this later on. You can see that one doesn't bevel very well. Sometimes you got to do temporary cuts when you're working with polygons to get bevels going like that, right? So I'm going to make a video talking about bevels later on, but this is definitely one that's worthwhile knowing about, right? A little bit of a tight section like that with the triangles kind of laid out in that area, but gives you an idea of maybe how you can approach that anyway. So anyways, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I will check you out in the next one. All right, take care.